For me, I'm more of a pen and paper type of person, and then I start to remember the information and I can bring it back into it. Because I'm at a point in my career where I've had a bunch of different management positions. I could write a resume all the way down to the floor, and I want to look at what's more relative. And so what I lean on is the STAR method. The STAR method is situation, task, action, and result. So we're looking at a situation, hey, because a lot of times they'll do interviews based off of core competencies. Tell me a time where you had to be flexible. Tell me a time where you had to collaborate, what you did.
Even if I do something totally different, I don't know, financial education or something, personal finance, something, I don't know, a fireman, doesn't matter. They're going to be like, yo, you were a teacher for 10 years. Why? So I have to have these questions in my head and my answers prepared so that way it can come off very confidently.
Yeah. That's dope. So when I come down to, I'm glad that you talked about preparing those questions in your head. For me, I'm more of a pen and paper type of person, and then I start to remember the information and I can bring it back into it. Because I'm at a point in my career where I've had a bunch of different management positions. I could write a resume all the way down to the floor, and I want to look at what's more relative. And so what I lean on is the STAR method. The STAR method is situation, task, action, and result. So we're looking at a situation, hey, because a lot of times they'll do interviews based off of core competencies. Tell me a time where you had to be flexible. Tell me a time where you had to collaborate, what you did. Or tell me a time where you had to be resilient. So I'm going to actually pull this up and I'll show my notes real quick. Share screen. I'll pull this up real quick and show what I go through. So for me here, STAR method. So based off of core competencies. And so the two core competencies, I'm just referencing collaboration and flexibility. What I typically find is using the STAR method, it will usually map to any type of competency that you do have. And if you check in the comments for the chat, on the chat, I actually posted the FBI's core competencies that they actually tap into. So for me, I said, oh yeah, tell me a time where you had to collaborate and you had to be flexible, right? So my situation came from one of my deployments, right? So situation we caught wind of an exercise that foreign partners wanted to conduct that the last unit forgot to inform us of. And the task was we were supposed to conduct a joint allied partner combat rescue mission with foreign partners. And then so action, what I did was I began hosting meetings. I met with the Navy, I met with the Marine Corps, I met with the Air Force, and I met with our foreign partners so I could gather their info and their expectations. I brought all the key stakeholders in the room. I'm going to say this again. I brought all the key stakeholders in the room. The reason why I said that is because when you get into project management, when you get into management, most companies and organizations are huge on key stakeholders. Who are the key stakeholders? They could be your customers. They could be the person doing the work, the people that have an interest in what you're doing. That's a project management principle. So I gathered all the information, figured out what our left and right limits were. Okay, hey, we can't give you 10 planes and all of these extra things that you want because we might be limited on resources at the time, and that raises our risk. So we can't actually do actual missions in the real world, right? Because we practice how we fight, but the fight is a little bit more important than the actual practices at times. So the result, we were able to conduct 2 rescue missions, one on water, one on land, as well as include our foreign partners, right? And the truth is, the original group, they got 6 months to plan this based off of the data that I had collected in the newspaper clippings. And we accomplished that in 3 weeks, right? So if you look at, that's a whole mouthful of things that tap into a bunch of different key points. But when it came to collaboration, we were able to gather the expectations of our allied partners and our military branches to meet and accomplish one common goal, right? And then flexibility. We accomplished mission objectives in 3 weeks without hiccups. There was no injuries. Everybody got home safely and they enjoyed the training. It got to a point where the next group that swapped out with the people were like, where's Captain Hamilton at? He gonna get y'all right. But I was getting ready to leave, and so it just ended up being one of those situations. It was one of those things where you look at it and you're like, okay, the STAR method, it piecemeals up any situation. And what I typically like to do is I like to tie it to the specific job that I'm doing or the specific jobs that I have on my resume. I got down to a rule where I pick, hey, shout out to Wally, salute to you, fam. Appreciate you tapping in. I got to a point where I'm only looking at, I typically only put 3 key positions because I've got so much on my resume now that are tied to the specific job and the specific position. And when I'm building that resume out, I'm using the LinkedIn description or the Indeed description to actually rebuild out my resume. And so a lot of people, it may seem like folly, but for a lot of people, they actually use technology to suck in these resumes. And so they're looking for keywords and key sentences from the actual job posting they put out there. That helps out a lot. So STAR method, core competencies that'll help you out a lot. Look up the STAR. It saved me from thinking like I got all this stuff on my brain. They're like, oh, what did you do? In the past, I'd be like, when I did this, I did that. And when I did this, I did that. But if I'm thinking about the jobs that are listed, we're smooth sailing.